Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori Brame. Today I'm going to be talking about the Psych Ward. It is a much requested video and not something that I particularly want to talk about, so hopefully this will be something that you guys want to hear about, and that will make it worth it, because that's what I always told myself when I started this channel was, if my video can help one other person, then it is worth it. So here we go. After I started experiencing steroid induced psychosis, when they weaned off the steroids, I was still not in a right state of mind. And so I was admitted to a psych ward. These memories are pretty traumatic for me. They have a lot to do with my diagnosis of medical PTSD. Up there if you want to watch the video, or there, I don't know. Basically, I was very insane. So I was admitted to the psych ward. I just have flashes of memory of what was going on then. I had no tether to reality. I believed I was in the future. I believed I was in an alternate dimension. I could see things that I couldn't see when I was not experiencing psychosis. I had a lot of really beautiful thoughts that I've kind of carried with me. I don't necessarily know how accurate they are, but I feel like they were gifts of psychosis that I was able to keep. But there was just a lot of things. I believed I was God. I was like asking people what they wanted me to heal and stuff like that. This is like intensely embarrassing for me and shameful. And I remember believing that so hard. It wasn't like I was faking it or acting out or anything like that. I believed it. So it just got to a place where my brother and sister came down. They lived about an hour north of me at the time, and they brought me to the emergency room. I hadn't slept in like 48 hours. I was talking 90 miles a minute. Nothing I was saying was making sense. I remember believing that I was gonna get out. Like I was not out of the hospital, but like out of this dimension, out of this reality where I was like gonna wake up and everything was gonna make sense again. And so I had this belief that if I could just figure out who God was, because I thought maybe it wasn't me, maybe that wasn't the secret, then I could get out. And so I was like looking at every person, and I looked at my brother and he had this blonde beard, and I was just like, it's you. And he's like, I am not God. And so I was just like, who is it then? So I wasn't necessarily saying these things out loud, but that was my train of thought, was just like, you know, as soon as I complete the game, as soon as I get to the next level, I'm gonna get out and everything's gonna make sense, and I'm gonna, like, you know, it's kind of like at the end of a psychological thriller or something, where all of a sudden the door opens and there's cameras everywhere and, you know, pulleys and stuff like that, and you realize that it was all just on a set. Like, that's how I felt. I felt like any second I was gonna turn the corner and everything was gonna make sense again. And so from there, they gave me a shot. They transported me from the ER to the psych ward downtown. Whatever they gave me, I was completely catatonic for the first 48 hours. I don't remember any of that time. Later, talking to my ex-husband, he said that they had called him after a couple of days and told him that I wasn't really responsive. I was sleeping a lot. Again, I can only go off of what they said. I thought about getting the doctor's notes from that time period, but honestly, I don't want to know. So I have a giant blank from Sunday night when I went to the ER to Wednesday morning when I woke up. And I woke up believing that I was in some kind of alternate reality spaceship futuristic thing, and I couldn't figure out how the shower worked. I kept running out in the hall to ask people, and nurses would come and start yelling at me because I was naked. And I remember having no concept of why they were yelling at me. I was like, it's just a body, we all have one. Like, I had no regard for social norms. Like, I literally did not understand it. It wasn't that I was like you know, deciding to disregard it. I did not remember it. I did not understand it. I was literally boiled down to pure animal. It was really weird. So, I mean, taking a shower, like it was one of those like jail showers where you gotta like punch it and then, you know, it gives you water for like a minute and then it stops. And it was really hard for me to figure it out. Like I just couldn't figure it out. And the meals, you could circle what meals you wanted and then give it back to them and they would give that to you the next day. And I remember just highlighting every one because I'm like, well, everybody here needs to eat. So I'm just gonna have, you know, them bring all the food and then everybody will get to eat. Like I couldn't understand that everybody had their own menu and they were circling exactly what they wanted. Everybody was doing their best. Like I don't hold any kind of bitterness against the nurses or staff or anything like that. But it was really intense. People were yelling at me. I didn't understand why. I had some physical boundaries violated by different patients. I was also like punished a few times where I had to go back to my room. I had to sit on this like noise pad, whereas like if you got up, the alarm would sound and somebody would come back and make you sit back down. And it took me a while to figure out how that worked because I would like, you know, get a thought in my mind and like jump up and then it would go off and they'd be like, no, come sit back down. And so I remember that being very confusing. I kept trying to give things away because I believed that I was going to like ascend into a different dimension, and so I wasn't going to be there for long. And I had a wedding band and I like threw it in the trash, and later I went and got it again, and you know, just a bunch of stuff like that that was very odd. I remember freaking out a bunch just because like there was a name, my name was on the board next to a doctor's name, and it wasn't my primary care doctor. I didn't understand that it was my hospital doctor and that was a different person. And so I kept running over and trying to wipe it off, and they kept being like, no, and they would rewrite the name. They would be like, that's your doctor. And I'm like, it's not my doctor. And I remember like screaming and, you know, crying, and like I couldn't understand what they were trying to do. I did have them tell me that, you know, I was gonna have to stay another day. And every single time I was just so devastated. I would sob. My family would call me, and I still remember some of those phone calls. Like I remember not understanding, but like knowing what I know now, having those memories, like it was a really precious time for them to call me. You know, I wasn't making any sense, and they were still there for me. They still loved me. I believed Santa Claus was there, and I couldn't understand gender, which is very embarrassing because I asked several nurses and even a doctor if they were a boy or a girl, because it was like I didn't understand. I was like, are you a boy or a girl? And one of them was when I was getting checked in. My brother was mortified, which is hilarious now. So I did have a couple of friends come and visit me during visitation hours while I was there. The Risperidone that I was on, they had weaned me off almost completely of the steroids, and they had put me on Risperidone, and it was making me weak and shake, and then the lupus was also flaring back up. So I had significant rashes all over my body. I was also exhausted and it was hard to talk. I was having a lot of blood pressure issues where it would be too high and then it would bottom out, and I didn't understand food. It was like if something tastes good, I wanted it, but I didn't understand when to eat or anything like that. And so there was just a lot of coaching and stuff from the hospital staff. I kept trying to call the number on the TV, but you had to dial 9 to get out. And so I would call 9 and then 11. And so they revoked phone privileges there from me for a bit, just because I kept calling 911, and you know, that you could still call 911 from there. And so the operators were calling the hospital staff, being like, you have somebody who keeps calling 911, and they would tell me, I'm like, I'm not calling 911. I'm calling this carpet guy on the TV. I actually did send a carpet guy to my house. My ex-husband was like, what the fuck? Like, who are you? I met some really great people in the psych ward. Some people that I have kept up with some people that I haven't, and some people that are no longer here today. Obviously, in a psychiatric wing, there are going to be people that are there because they survived a suicide attempt, and some of those people went on to be great, and some of them were more successful in later attempts. So I'm really thankful for the things that I experienced there, even though they were hard and bullshit, and they're not memories that I'm fond of. But I do think that there was some gold in there that that was good for me to experience. I think when I got out of the psych ward, I still wasn't quite myself, and I had a lot of time to let the risperidone work. I was on it for 6 weeks after that, and I had posted a bunch of stuff like on Facebook that just didn't make any kind of sense. And when I got home, I was so mortified at that I felt like I needed to make a Facebook apology. And so I wrote this message on there, and I was shocked by the outpouring of love and support, just people telling me that they were rooting for me and that I was okay. And I honestly, like, any social anxiety I had after experiencing that was gone. It was like, people are good. They are. You know, like, if you can royally F up whoever you're trying to be, and people give you another shot. Like, it was really amazing at how many people were warm and loving and receptive to my apology. And so I was very thankful for that. If that's something you're going through or have been through and you want to share this story, I'd love to share it on here with you if you want, or if you want to just tell me privately. It's always good that we know that we're not alone, and it happens to more people than we realize. I am grateful for you guys. I'm glad that I am able to tell my story in a way that lets people know that they're not alone. Thank you guys for hanging out, and I will talk to you another time.